without further ado, let's get started, shall we? Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Erin, and today I'm going to be showing you how I made a princess dress out of 2 designs that I drew. Now, to give you some background on my sewing experience, I bought my first sewing machine back in 2020. I was stuck at home and the only thing that I could do was just binge watch YouTubers, specifically Cool Lerpa and her Thrifted Transformation series. She has an amazing channel and it really inspired me to start sewing. So I just was in love with the idea and I really wanted my own sewing machine. So I ordered it online. I ended up making this dress skirt. I don't know where I'm gonna put it. I ended up making a dress skirt for my very first project. And then about 2 years later, I made the top and then I wore it to a college prom. And I was so proud of it and it was such a big hit that whenever the next year rolled around, I thought, what if I made another one? This year's theme was fantasy and immediately I thought princess dress. Obviously, I have to wear a princess dress, right? So I drew up 2 different dress designs that I could see myself wearing that really felt like running through the forest or running through an abandoned castle kind of vibes. But I wasn't entirely sold on the idea, mainly because I knew it was going to be a lot of work and it was really close to the actual day of the prom when I had this thought. But something changed my mind and I ended up buying the supplies. I couldn't choose between which design I wanted to actually go with. So instead, I just kind of did the similarities and combined the 2 of them together as one cohesive dress. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. I should note that these dress designs were actually inspired by me just walking through fabric stores. So I found these really pretty dusty rose colored fabrics. There was the charmeuse fabric, there was this lacy fabric, there was this really nice chiffon, and I was like, oh, those would be really pretty together. I don't know how, but they would be really pretty together. And when I actually decided that I wanted to make the dress, then I said, okay. And then I bought the fabrics. I also got interfacing and boning, which were the very first time that I ever bought those, and this was going to be the first time that I've ever used those. But I was really excited because I knew it was going to up my game a bit, improve my skills a little bit. And then I started working on that bodice. So I already had a pattern from the first top that I made for the gold dress, and I decided to reuse that pattern for this dress as well. And I'll tell you why that was a mistake in a minute. Note, I also did make a prototype using muslin. I didn't record myself doing this, but it looked okay. I was having problems with the boob area, but I thought since I was able to adjust it on that dress, I would be able to adjust it on this dress, so I didn't think too much of it. I cut out the outer shell and the inner lining using the same exact fabric. And then once I was done with that, I cut out the interfacing using those exact same patterns. Now, the most nerve-wracking portion, well, the second most nerve-wracking portion of the third most nerve-wracking portion of making this dress was that I was fusing the interfacing onto the actual fabric portion. So I got fusible interfacing, non-woven, so it was a lot easier in my opinion to actually work with it. By the time I actually got done, I wasn't actually as intimidated anymore. I also only added it to the outer shell, so that gave me some leeway too. But once I actually sewed that outer shell together, I hated it. I hated it so much. I hated how pointy the bosom or boobs, I hated how the chest area looked, I hate how pointy it looked. And any other alterations I could think of, I was just plain done. Also, I was running low on fabric, so if I had to start over, I just had to use the pieces that I had. So whenever this happened, I was just I was so ready to throw in the towel.
Nothing's really working the way I thought it would, so I'm probably gonna end this project here if I can't think of anything else to do. So yeah.
But nope, I did not quit. I realized that I had put way too much time, energy, and money into this project for me to start over. And once I realized that, I decided to make a last-ditch effort. Now, I didn't record this portion, but I went back to my dress form and I just pinned some muslin on it, and I draped the muslin, and I just freehanded the entire pattern. And actually it worked out. that's the pattern that I used. So again, because of fabric scarcity, I had to reuse the center front piece for the dress and just kind of cut and adjust it. But with the other pieces of the bodice, I was actually able to salvage some of my scrap fabric and remake the patterns using those. And the same thing happened for the interfacing as well, so I felt really good. Actually, I'm lying. I actually had enough money to buy one last yard of interfacing. It was a lot lighter too, so I didn't have to worry about it being too stiff and not pliable. And it was just all in all just much better. I felt comfortable enough to cut out the lacy portion that was used for the center front piece of the dress. Then I sewed those two together, and then I sewed the rest of the outer shell pieces together. Man, it looked pretty nice, I was pretty happy. I was so satisfied with the way this was turning out. It motivated me to keep going. So I kept going, and I actually did that inner lining, and the inner lining is actually where I put the boning in. Now again, this is the very first time that I've used this ever. I am not experienced in sewing, so I did measure the boning against the actual bodice, and then I pressed them out so they wouldn't be too curly, and I did all of that. But I realized I didn't have enough support for the chest area, and I didn't really know how to fix that or how much boning to put in to get the maximum support that I wanted. Overall, I should have done a lot more research on putting in boning. But finally, I sewed together both the inner lining and the outer shell and pressed it together, and it looked pretty good. I was pretty happy about that. So I was done with that for the moment. The next step was working on the skirt. This skirt is long and multi-layered, so I was reserving most of my fabric for this portion of the dress. I'm in love with circle skirts too, so all of the layers were derived from circle skirt patterns. And I wanted it long enough so that it flowed behind me, and if I ever got a petticoat, then the dress would still hit the bottom of the ground. The base layer was the charmeuse fabric, followed by the lacy fabric on top, and then I worked on the chiffon portion of the dress, which is where I had that fabric scarcity hit really hard. So originally the chiffon was supposed to cover 3/4 of the skirt, leaving an exposed area out in the front, and it was just supposed to cover up most of the dress. But then I realized that I did not have enough of that, so I had to make changes. So I cut off a portion of the chiffon because I still wanted to stick with that circle skirt idea. That left me with 2 panels of chiffon to work with. I hand sewed those onto the dress. I gathered them and hand sewed them on and placed them exactly where I wanted them to go. And then I realized that I had extra of the charmeuse fabric, and I decided to make a smaller circle skirt to surround the chiffon and make it look a bit more cohesive. I didn't want it to go all the way down to the bottom of the dress because I really want that chiffon to still stick out and be noticed, but I still wanted something to cover on top of it. And again, because the chiffon was also in 2 panels, I decided to make this one 2 panels as well, just to give some consistency. Now, this was all just my way of cutting it. I probably, or most likely, just didn't know what I was doing and just thought of the best way that I could with my own experience to make this dress. And actually, it combined the 2 dress designs a lot better than what my original idea was going to do. So I'm actually not mad about it at all. I sewed the skirt together around 3 times because 2 of those times the sewing machine kept catching other parts of the skirt and I had to start over. But once I was done, that skirt made me feel so freaking happy. I was so happy to see my dream come to life, and it was just a really exciting moment for me. I was so happy. I was twirling around in that dress. I'm not showing you in the camera, I'm not showing you in the recording, but I was just twirling around everywhere. I was so excited. I didn't have enough fabric to actually make the sleeves, and I was really sad about that because the sleeves were going to be my favorite portion of making the dress, but I had to decide on not doing it. Now at this point, the only things left to do were to sew the bodice and the skirt together, add the zipper, and hem the edges together. And some of those hems would be with gold bias tape or gold ribbon. And really, I think I took care of most of this in one day. Well, those last three things. So that's exactly what I did. I sewed the skirt together, I added the zipper afterwards, and then I got to the bias tape and ribbon portion for hemming. It's a very interesting moment for me. I wanted to use the ribbon instead of the bias tape that I had because the bias tape was really thick and I couldn't really do much with it, but I realized that I didn't actually buy enough of the ribbon to hem most of the places that I wanted gold to be at. So I had to find a creative way to change the design or get a better idea of what to do. So instead of going to the store and getting more bias tape or getting more ribbon, what I decided to do was cut the bias tape into 4 thin strips and press them together with an iron. In theory, it was a perfect idea, but in application, I think I could have done better just buying more ribbon or getting better bias tape. I don't know, but it looked okay for the prom, so I was it was a really good a good fix for the moment. I also found this really pretty pendant, and I was like, ooh, this would be really nice for a necklace. Ooh. And then I repurposed some of that thick bias tape and I just used that for the necklace chain. After I got all those minute details taken care of, everything was looking good, I was ready to go. So here are the final pictures and videos of my final dress. Take a look. Overall, I am so proud of this dress. This was definitely the longest that I've worked on for a sewing project, and I was really proud on it. I was proud of it, and it made me feel good to see the final result and to compare it to the actual designs that I drew. I was blown away. I felt really good. So yeah. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. If you're also into sewing, please feel free to give me some tips or advice on how to improve my sewing skills. That would be awesome. Or if you want to see any other crafting ideas you can do, I love doing more than just sewing and drawing. So if you have any other crafting ideas, I would love to hear them. Please leave them down below. And yeah, I will see you in the next one.